Hello, season's greetings, and welcome to That Service Dog Show. I'm your host, Stone, and today, with it being Christmas Eve, we are going to take a break from our normal format. Setting up interviews during the busy holiday season has been a bit difficult, so instead, we are going to discuss a few issues that have come up in the groups that I'm an administrator for. For those that don't know, I do run 4 separate service dog pages on Facebook, so I am exposed to quite a bit of questions and concerns in the community. So I'm hoping to use this platform to help discuss some of the issues that may come up in the groups. But before we get to that, if you would hit the like button as well as the subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps with the YouTube algorithm to help push this video as well as others like it out to those who may benefit and appreciate them. As always, comments posted either here on this post or sent to my email at thatservicedogshow@yahoo.com or Facebook or X under the same name are appreciated and will be replied to. For those who are concerned about privacy, I fully understand, which is the reason why the viewers have decided, for the most part, to contact me on my alternative formats, both in email, Facebook, or on X, and that is perfectly fine. I'll make sure that your anonymity will be maintained for any questions that may be of a sensitive nature. Again, I fully understand. Now, for the first topic that has come up in the last couple of weeks is the issue of where future service dog handlers rush getting dogs that they hope to train as a service dog. When rushing, a lot slips through the cracks. It makes getting a dog that has the ability to ethically work in the public less likely. In fact, in the last month, I've had nearly a dozen people who have asked for information on dogs on the ground now ready to go home. This past month, less than 2 weeks ago, someone asked and said that their goal was to get a pup before Christmas. Let that sink in. I want a dog to train as a service dog by Christmas. When it was just a little over a week to Christmas when this woman said this to me, I explained that whenever I got General, my first service dog, while he did come from the Humane Society, which they were willing to look in shelters if they needed to, while he did come from the Humane Society, I spent several months reading through profiles online of dogs, calling and emailing shelters and foster homes, really getting a sense of the animals that were up for adoption, and then sending animal behaviorists to ultimately test 100 dogs. Not cheap nor fast. And then he still would take 2 years to train, even though he was an adolescent, since we had to work on a few behaviors that he had developed up to that point in life that wouldn't be considered service dog appropriate. Then, for my current service dog in training, because as soon as I got General, I went ahead and started looking for my next breeder because I promised my husband that I would get a certain breed for my next service dog. I did not think I would need one this soon, but it's a good thing I went ahead and put in the work as early as I did. But for my current service dog in training, I researched breeders for 4.5 years. I discounted a lot of breeders who didn't do the proper testing for health, did not test for temperament of the dame and sire, even though their temperament does influence that of the pups, as well as refused to have litters tested. That I was told that I would be expected to look at pups' pics and declare I wanted a pup that had the brown collar or the purple collar, based on looks alone, before they were old enough to be temperament tested, and hope that the pup would fit the bill, where that likelihood is not great at all. After all, it's estimated that only 1 to 3% of all dogs born are born with the correct temperament for this extremely difficult job. Then adding in needing the proper work drive, as well as the health for working as a service dog, this is by no means a job that any dog that pulls at the heartstrings can or even should be expected to work as a service dog. Now, I did say this is not something that any dog could do. A reminder, any breed, if they are born with the correct temperament, can be a service dog. It's just that there are certain breeds that have a higher percentage that are born with that correct temperament because it fits in with their breed standard a little bit better. But there are some in other breeds that they go against their breed standard, which is why they're called unicorns. So yes, any breed can be a service dog, but by no means can every dog be a service dog. Perhaps it is dealing with breeders like this that has led more and more future handlers to skip this portion of the prospective service dog selection process. In addition to the part where future handlers are trying to save money. And I understand because we are disabled. You have to be disabled to have a service dog. So money is always tight whenever it comes to needing a service dog. But let me assure you that spending money for this upfront for a service dog prospect is well worth it. Not to mention, it can ultimately save you money by preventing you from using your time, money, and resources on a puppy that wouldn't ever have the ability to work as a service dog, no matter how much training you put into it. There's nothing more heartbreaking than putting your heart and soul into a pup and then realizing that it's not going to work out and you have to wash the dog. And many times, because not everybody has the ability to keep dogs that aren't able to be service dogs, having to rehome them so that you can make room for a new dog and start the process all over again. So saving on that heartbreak by temperament testing and finding a good breeder, or if you go the shelter route, making sure that the dog has the correct temperament, it saves with everything in the long run. Money, time, and hurt on your heart. I have had 3 different online friends to get service dog prospects in the month of December alone. Of the 3, 2 declared that their pup was temperament tested. When asked, one gave the acronym for a test that has absolutely nothing to do with dogs when I Googled it, but insisted that the dog was fully temperament tested with parents that were fully health tested for an outrageously, extremely low cost. A cost that is a common price for backyard bred dogs of the breed that was chosen. When asked anything regarding health testing, the friend got extremely defensive. That pup was taken back to the breeder in about a week, almost 2, when it was determined that the pup had a lot of issues, including some health issues that would have been found out and screened for had the parents been tested. The other friend had a pup for a weekend before they realized that they made a huge mistake. Now, a third friend, while they didn't have the pup temperament tested and admitted to it, very important, because there are many people who will say that they have had their dog's temperament tested and health tested when they haven't been, just to try to avoid scrutiny from the community. But whenever they admitted to it, they did go with a breed that has a high success rate, at least, with a line that has great success for breeding for service dogs. And they have an entire file, much like this one that came with my service dog, that came with their pup regarding the parents' health testing scores. So while they didn't do everything possible before starting down this incredibly difficult route, they did do quite a bit of due diligence, getting a quality dog rather than one of questionable breeding. While it will stack the odds in the handler's favor much greater than had they not gone with a responsible breeder who does all that should be done health-wise. And I know you're not going to be able to see everything, but this is everything that came with Alexandra. Okay, this is her AKC. And a certificate that actually shows that she went to the vet, because sadly, so many times, especially whenever you're getting dogs not from reputable breeders, the first time they go to the vet is when you take them to the vet, which really should not be the first time that they entered the vet's office. So yes, I've got receipts of whenever the dog's gone to the vet. And, you know, things about immunizations. Alexandra was immunized naturally, and she had her teeters run before she came home. And yes, that's not fully accurate, but it does let you know where they are before they go home. And then she had them again to prove that she still had immunity from the alternative natural methods that the breeder oversaw with the assistance of the veterinarian. So I also have the OFA scores of mom and dad and grandma and grandpa on both sides. I have the Holter monitor report, canine Holter monitoring report. I have stuff about hearts. I have stuff about thyroid. I have stuff about here's the teeters. I have stuff about eyes and thyroid. I think I've already said thyroid. But so basically everything that the AKC says should be ran on her breed, which is a boxer. I have tests for that for 2 generations, mom and dad, as well as grandma and grandpa on both sides. So a responsible breeder, if they don't print it out for you, they will at least give you access so that you can look at it. Because like OFA scores, if you know my dog's name, her AKC name, whenever she has her OFAs ran, you can go and look them up. If I know my best friend's name, dog's name, whenever he has his OFA scores ran, I'll be able to look it up. So it's not really something that you can lie about, because anybody can look it up. It is a public forum that you can actually go and see. So if a breed, a lot of times breeders may not give you the records, but they'll say, oh, but mom and dad has had their health testing scores. Okay, so, and this actually recently happened. So look up the health scores for the OFAs, and the name that was given was actually for dogs that were like 12 and 16 years old, which the parents of the puppies that were being sold were not that old. So the breeder actually gave the names of probably the last dog in their kennel who actually had their health scores. Perhaps they bought the dogs after they already had their health scores, or they were the parents of the first dogs that they bought. So, you should be able to get a file from a responsible breeder, and it should also include your contract. So, all right. So, with that behind us, yes, a quality dog is more expensive than a backyard bred dog, which usually go for under $1,000, typically as low as only $500. Sometimes less, but the average is about $500, which, yes, whenever you're on a fixed income, that is still a lot of money until you actually put that in perspective. The cost to do all of these tests is the reason why a quality dog is more expensive. And this is an issue where you get what you pay for. I mean, it's that simple. You get what you pay for. I hear all the time, I don't need to buy a show dog. I don't need to pay $2,500 for a dog because I'm not going to show it. It's going to be a pet, or it's going to be a service dog in this case. I don't care about its lines. You should care. You should care about whether or not it's coming with the best chance of being successful and being healthy, because you do not want to have a heightened chance of having to retire a dog early due to health. General is a shelter mutt, and he is officially retiring this week. He has extremely bad arthritis now, so he's not been out walking, and whenever I go somewhere like the zoo, he rides with me on my scooter. And yes, he can task from either a scooter or a stroller. That was something that we worked on during his phasing into retirement, so that it was not a quick and abrupt retirement for his mental health. But a quality dog, if I had gone with a quality dog to start off with, at 6 years old, I likely would not have to be retiring that dog with bad arthritis. Now, his arthritis is from multiple near-fatal dog attacks, so I will take that into consideration, but he was likely at a predisposed for getting joint issues because he is a mutt. He has breeds that are both large and small, and whenever you take a large dog and a small dog and you breed them, their skeletal structure doesn't usually line up very well. So yeah, he does not have the best breeding because, again, he is a shelter mutt and he is having to retire very early in his life. But as far as with the cost of backyard breds, especially the more commonly bred dogs, these would be your Labradors, your German Shepherds, your Pits, your Boxers, and more. If you're getting a dog for less than, say, for a Labrador, $1,500 is about what it costs if you want a well-bred dog minimum. And again, that's with having all of the health testing required for that breed. Or perhaps you want a German Shepherd. Their minimum cost, if they're well-bred, is about an extra $1,000. So you're looking at about $2,500 for a well-bred German Shepherd. And one needs to ask why. If it is not because, if they're charging you only like $500, why? And it's not because the breeder just likes you as a person, or they think that you're going to take care of their puppy very well and they're just like, yay. No. In fact, breeders are actually less likely to want to sell a pup as a potential service dog. You'll hear this a lot whenever you're actually doing your due diligence. There's several reasons for this. A reputable breeder, whenever they hear that your reason for getting the German Shepherd, the Labrador, the Pit Bull, the Anatolian Shepherd, the Bernese Mountain Dog, whatever your breed of choice is, if they hear that this is for a prospective service dog, they're going to have a few questions that may give them pause before selling you this puppy. This goes back to the fact that so few dogs, even when bred for service dog temperament, are actually born with it. Most breeders will know that they do not produce dogs of this temperament, if they're honest. Responsible breeders want to make sure that their dogs are leaving their home for their forever home. If the intent is taking the puppy as a service dog prospect, then the concern for what will happen to the puppy if it doesn't make it comes up. Responsible breeders require pups to return to them to ensure that those pups don't end up in shelters if they have to be rehomed. Them, not the hope you find a nice home for it. Responsible breeders want to know where their dogs are going. They put their blood, sweat, and tears into these dogs. And they stand by their dogs for their lifetime. whenever those dogs return to them, well, now these pups are no longer the cute 8-week-old puppies any longer. Sometimes as old as 2 to 3 years old when it's returned to the breeder's home, and it'll be much harder to rehome. And this is something that the breeder will be thinking about whenever they hear that the reason you want to take this puppy home is because you want to train it as a service dog. As someone with my second service dog, believe me that I understand the need for a service dog. But rushing to get a dog, which may or may not be the right dog, can ultimately create more issues for the service dog handler, causing more stress, which can cause many conditions to become more severe. Many conditions have a direct link to stress, from POTS, cardiac issues, respiratory, epilepsy, and more. So trying to deal with a poor choice for a prospect can make life much harder than trying to deal with life without a service dog while saving up for a good candidate. And before people come at me, yes, I know mutts can make great service dogs too. Again, General is a shelter mutt. And while I had 99 dogs to be tested that flunked before I found him, I know a few handlers who have anecdotal examples of where handlers have gotten lucky. They've played Russian roulette and they won. They had a dog that just happened to be a good candidate. But these are the exceptions, not the rule. Anecdotal examples shouldn't be used as evidence that due diligence isn't necessary. In school, we all knew that one or two people that, they got straight A's and they never appeared to study. They wouldn't even take a pencil home, much less a book. But we knew that if we attempted to do the same, we would flunk. Same for getting a service dog. We need to study to make sure that we have a chance at passing our eventual service dog exams. Sadly, this leads me to one more point: the lack of accountability or regulation in this industry, because I've also had a few in the group to claim that the trainer that they have hired for their prospect claim that their dogs are perfect for service dog work, and then ask the group for a variety of questions about their dog and trying to fix a litany of issues that their dog has. One such individual in one of the groups that I run in the last 2 weeks has been training their dog for almost 2 years now. The issue that they were working on with their trainer and have been working on for more than a year happens to be dog aggression. Not dog excitement, dog aggression. You heard that right. Someone was working a dog that is dog aggressive under the guidance of their trainer with their blessing. When asked if the trainer had at least told them to pull the dog from non-pet friendly venues until the aggression was worked through and to stay in pet friendly locations, the answer was no. That the trainer had said that unless their dog actually bites another dog, they're good. Excuse me? No. This is a prime example of why you should get second opinions ever so often, every few months, while training, as well as using someone other than the trainer that you plan to use to temperament test the prospect. This industry is riddled with unethical trainers who will tell their clients exactly what they want to hear and continue to tell them to work dogs who shouldn't be in not pet friendly areas where only service dogs or service dogs in training able to ignore other dogs not dog aggressive should be. Which is just one more reason why we should all be doing our homework before we even get our dogs. Not just on the dogs, but the trainers that we intend to use as well. And this isn't something that should be rushed. Again, when you rush, things fall through the cracks. How many times have we heard of trainers or programs who have seemed so great only to learn of outrageous claims of abuse that are substantiated with evidence, many times video evidence? Rushing may not reveal these claims that then lead handlers to use them, only to learn of their problematic behaviors after their dogs have been ruined. A family member through marriage learned this the hard way before I ever even got my first service dog. They went through a program that sounded good at first, but after doing the fundraising to get a dog matched with their daughter, did they eventually learn that the program wasn't as upstanding as it first appeared. Their daughter was given a 6-month-old puppy labeled as a fully trained service dog, who had some major mental health issues of its own. When it is stressed, it runs into walls and smashes its head in. Yep, that was their fully trained service dog that they raised $20,000 for. Only afterwards did they learn that this program was known for fraud, even having been on Dr. Phil. But rushing meant that they didn't know about this program's reputation. Same for a variety of trainers. In my state alone, I'm aware of several who have been discredited for abuse of their clients' dogs, as well as just bad training. Yet they still get new clients every day because they haven't done their due diligence in researching their trainers before hiring them. It is only after their dog has shown signs of abuse or they see other red flags that they then go to the various places on social media to blacklist the trainers. They are then told to search those blacklist pages and learn that they've been listed many times for legitimate reasons. We will never learn everything during our time of trying to prepare, but again, this show is about doing our due diligence as much as possible, both before getting the pup as well as afterwards. Doing online searches is pretty simple. This is also why you should ask for references from the breeder and the trainer and follow up. Follow up on them. Don't just assume that they have nothing to hide because they give you 3 references. Follow up on them. Look at their dogs. Ask yourself, is this the type of dog with its quality and or training that you want for your service dog? Ask to shadow a training session so that you can see the trainer work with the dog. Are you comfortable with the way that the trainer works with the dog? For board and trains, insist on seeing where the dog will be kept. And if they say that their insurance doesn't allow for clients back there, fair enough. Videotape it. Zoom it. You should be able to see a video of where the dog will be without a lot of time to clean up the area. You should be allowed to see the area as it is. If they refuse to just leave you in the front area while they go and video the back rooms real quick and return to show you the video, take that as a big red flag and find a new place to go. Many board and trains will even have it where there is a video of the crate rooms where you can sign in online and check in with your pup. And they should send at least a weekly compilation video of training sessions with your pup so that you can actually see that they are working with the dog. I actually had someone who came on one of my pages who they were using a board and train that actually they go to shelters and they temperament test and bring home dogs to train, and then they match potential clients with these dogs. They were only sent text messages saying, oh, we worked on this today and your dog is he has these issues that we're working on, but oh, he's doing so great. No video, just verbal communication through text message. And when she actually received her dog at the end of the training time frame, I believe it was an 8-week course, if I'm not mistaken, the dog came home with her and it didn't even have basically manners, much less any of the tasking that she had been told that the dog had been trained to do. The dog's temperament was actually, to put it nicely, let's just say that this dog should have never been taken in as a service dog prospect. This person had other dogs. They already had their service dog that was getting ready to retire. So she needed a dog that was dog neutral, which our service dogs really should be anyway by the time they're considered fully trained. And I know that 8 weeks is pittance, and she planned to do further board and trains, but basic leash manners is a very low bar, and this dog didn't have that. In addition to did not have the correct temperament, so it should not have been taken in as a service dog prospect. But by researching trainers and board and trains before you even get a pup, you remove some of the stress that comes with trying to find one when you already have the dog and are worried about losing precious time. Because I know that that's a big thing whenever we first get our dogs. We know that there's this limited window for their socialization, and people stress over making sure that they can just cram as much as they can in those weeks. And they end up flooding their dogs. There's a difference between socializing your dog and flooding your dog. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know the differences between that. But what are some questions that you should ask of a trainer or a board and train? Well, first thing I would ask is, what's your experience in training dogs? You do not want a young or inexperienced trainer using your dog as a learning tool for themselves. You want someone who has years of experience as an adult working with dogs. I add this because a lot of children and teens feel that they are ready for this incredibly difficult job because they've trained their family pet or even their own service dog and perhaps their neighbor's dog. And when we're young, we don't really understand that we don't know what we don't know. So while there are a lot of younger people who have great potential to grow into being great trainers, they still need to develop their experience before they take on other people's dogs. Because this is not a wide enough variety of dog experience to be confident that they can handle whatever issues may come up with your puppy or dog as it learns and trains. Ask who they apprenticed under. What programs have they studied under to add to their own personal knowledge? On my page that I run for my state, I've had several who have come in to try to gain clients who have zero external experience. One person who actually works in IT, who was wanting to get into the dog training business, and sadly he has created his own website that issues training credentials that he then posts a certificate on his wall. If you walk into his office, it's right there. But he made it. He pulled up, he's an IT guy. He created a website so that you can actually go and look at it. But he's the one that runs it. So absolutely no real credentials. So whenever you see credentials, actually look it up. Do your Google searches. And again, you don't want to rush this. There's a lot of stuff that you need to look into, and this is not something that really can be done in a 2-3 week time frame. But he trains dogs in my state, and he teaches things that no one in the community would encourage, such as on his Facebook page, he has pictures of dogs sitting up in restaurant booths and even eating from plates on the table, all of which violates my state's laws and most states' health codes. When confronted, he blasted that a person doesn't need experience or credentials to train a service dog because anyone can do it. And yes, he's still training dogs, and they are poorly behaved. And the most common task that he trains is, he says that his dogs comfort their owners when they are upset, which by that definition, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, does not qualify as a service dog task. That is an emotional support animal and is not granted public access rights under the ADA. So yes, please ask for experience, look it up, make sure that they have have the actual experience, not just made up experience that they can put on their wall. Something else to ask, that when you ask some of these people who are trying to get into the business, but they don't have the experience to get there yet. People who really should be, people who should still be apprenticing. Usually a good trainer will apprentice for about 2 years or more under the guidance of a trainer. But whenever you go and ask the next questions, they should be able to explain their training methods to you. And they should do it without an issue. They shouldn't be upset that you're asking what kind of training methods they're using. They should be able to say whether or not they're force-free and what that means. Or do they work with Lima? Are they a balance trainer? Are there training tools that they avoid and prefer or do they prefer different ones for different times of their training with their clients? Like, certain tools should not be used on young puppies. But once they're a little bit older, it's very much a owner-trainer based situation. But you want to avoid trainers who cannot explain their methods. Just as you want to avoid trainers who use the adversive tools on the young pups under the age of 6 months. A young pup should not need a stem from an e-collar during a training session. You can actually create fear. You can ruin a dog by using the wrong tool at the wrong time. Ask, do they use head collars? Why or why not? And if they use a head collar, what are the reasons for using a head collar? Because a trainer should know that you do not just slap on a head collar because the dog is pulling or jumping. Because they're not used for jumping. A lot of people who are not knowledgeable will use them for a dog that's jumping or pulling, but that actually puts the dog at risk for neck injuries. A head collar is used for, its purpose is for focus, not to keep the dog from pulling, not to keep the dog from jumping. Because, again, if they're pulling or they're jumping and it's attached to the front of their head, you risk neck injury. So for the haughty and the gentle leader, if the trainer slaps one on because the dog is pulling or jumping, that's a red flag. Now there is another head collar that is designed differently. Instead of being attached to actually move the head this way, it's attached so that it's attached at the back, and if the dog does pull, the head goes down, so it no longer sees where it wants to go, and it stops. And that's called a sporn head collar, and I did use that with Alexandra for part of her training. She now works on a flat collar. So I'm balanced in my personal methods. I am not a dog trainer, but I try to learn everything I can so that I can help people on the groups that I run, and I do my research so that I can come on here. But so I have used the prong, I have used the martingale, I have used the slip lead, and I have used the head collar for different things for different dogs at different points of their training. But again, a head collar really should not be used for pulling, and if a trainer suggests one because your dog is pulling, get a second opinion. And so you want to avoid trainers who can't explain their methods, just like I just now explained my methods. I explained why I would not recommend a head collar for certain behaviors, or an e-collar for certain ages. And I'm not even a trainer, but I can I can explain that to you. They should be able to explain that to you. If they cannot explain their training methods, then you should run. They should also be willing to adapt their methods to the dog in front of them. They should not have a one-size-fits-all approach to training dogs. I have 2 dogs. They were both trained very differently by the same person. Train the dog that's in front of you, but that does not mean that there are certain guidelines that you should just toss out, like the no adversive tools before a certain age, and using a tool for a purpose that it was not designed for. You still should not do that, regardless of whether or not you think that one dog just needs this. If you are not able to train the dog with certain methods that are still safe for that age, then that's whenever you need to go and find some extra help. If a dog that they are working with, if they start to display issues that they are not familiar with, are they willing and able to refer you to an animal behaviorist or a trainer that is more knowledgeable than them when it first crops up? Willing and able. The willing part is usually where you're going to come in contact with some issues. A good trainer will be aware of their own limitations. You do not want to deal with a trainer whose own ego gets in the way of what your dog needs. And I've seen this. They're not going to send you off to someone else because that means that they failed in their mind. No, it just means that your dog has gone as far as it can with them. It's time to move on. Just like, look at it this way. Whenever you're in school, do you have the same teacher every year? No. You learn something from Miss Holmes, and then the next year you go to Mr. Wright, and then the next year you go to, perhaps Miss Sandy. She prefers not to have her last name. And, you've seen these teachers all your life. Same thing whenever you finally go to college. You don't have the same instructor for every single portion of your adolescence. And sometimes our dogs need a different instructor for a different time in their lives. They may do absolutely exceedingly well with the trainer until they hit adolescence. And then it's time for someone who does adolescence better than the first trainer. Maybe one trainer works really, really well with young dogs to get them that good foundation. Because we cannot discount a good foundation whenever it comes to training. But maybe once that foundation's laid, bring in another trainer for them to start putting the bricks on that foundation. Whenever they've gone as far as they can with the dog, bring someone else in to start building the studs for the house. You need a different trainer at times for different parts. So don't be afraid to use a multitude of trainers, and actually that can help so that any issues that you may not see, that the first trainer or the second trainer did not see, but someone coming in with fresh eyes, they can see. And so a trainer who's willing to actually say, I love Sparky very much, but I'm afraid that these are some issues that I can't deal with, but I have a co-worker who does very well with this breed or this behavior issue, and I recommend that you go to them. So yeah, don't be afraid to change things up a little bit. All right, so another question that you should be able to ask whenever you are looking at trainers: do you have the references? I mentioned this before, but you need references, and you need to follow up on them to make sure that it isn't just the name of 3 friends that they happen to have who will lie for them. You want to meet with these people, observe their dogs as well as their level of training. Think to yourself, is this the level of training a service dog should have? Is this what I want in my service dog? And of course, as part of the references, I would recommend joining a training session or two to watch how the trainer works with their dogs. That way you can learn if you and the trainer mesh well together, because this is a partnership that you are investing not just money, but a lot of time as well as your potential medically needed device. And remember, the trainer is only part of it. You need to be able to work well with them because they're not actually training the dog per se. 80% of dog training is training you. Training the owner to be able to do things whenever the trainer's not there. Because a lot of times people will be like, I don't understand why Sparky, he does so great during our training sessions, but then when we go home, it's like he's a different dog. The dog is adapting to the person who's with him. So, the training sessions show that he knows how to do it. But do you know how to do it? Do you know how to get what you need out of the dog? And that's a good portion of what you need whenever you meet up with trainers. Even whenever you do board and trains, they should still have sessions where they go like, okay, now that the dog knows what to do, we need to teach you how to get the dog to do what the dog knows how to do. So yeah, a good 80% of dog training is with the human itself. So another question, very, very important question, especially for the fact that getting different breeds is very common because, we all want our heart breed. So even if certain breeds may do better, that may not be the dog that we want. Or maybe we need a different dog for our particular disabilities. If you have a boxer example, just like I have one, you need a trainer who isn't only familiar with Labradors. Or if you have a Belgian Malinois, you need a trainer who is familiar with that breed and its tendencies. Or if you have a hound, a beagle, for instance, it may not need the same kind of trainer as a German Shepherd. So the dog's breed will play a role in what trainer you get, because they are not all the same, nor respond to the same training methods in the same way. A trainer should be honest with you that they aren't familiar with that breed. They may be willing to try their hand at it, but they should be honest so that you can make a decision as to if you want to try it, such as if there are a limited number of trainers in your area, or if you want to move forward with someone else. Other things to ask is things such as the cost. Will it be by the hour or a set price paid up front for continual support for a set time frame? Does the trainer work with others in their facility? If so, who will be training your dog? You want to be comfortable with the person that you entrust your dog to, and you need to know that they respect you and your dog. If doing a board and train, what kind of interaction will you be able to expect during the average day or week to see that your dog was worked with during that time frame? Are there cameras set up in the kennel room so that you will have access to the view to see that your dog is safe? Or is your dog kept in its kennel for 10 hours each day and only brought out for potty breaks and perhaps a 20-minute training session? Happens a lot. Will the training session be recorded, or at least a compilation sent to you on a regular basis so that you can be apprised to the dog's progress? That way, when you see that your dog is at this portion along the way, may still need help here, but you can see the progress. In one of the groups, all contact was only via a text, that the trainer would state that their dog was working on XYZ and that they mastered this along the way. Only text, no pictures, no videos. However, when the dog was delivered, none that the trainer has informed the owner was accurate. The fully trained service dog, who was taught allegedly 4 tasks, didn't even have a proper leash manner, And once they received the dog, they had to start over from scratch. Nothing that the trainer had sent through text was true. The dog had never been worked with, knew no tasks, and to be honest, I think they had to wash the dog after they paid for all of this training. And again, the only information that they were ever given was through text. No video of, hey, here's a 10-second, video of showing the dog walking nicely on a leash. It's not hard. Whenever I worked with a trainer to help me teach Alexandra some things that I did not have personal experience with teaching, she was able to take one of these videos while we were having a training session. So if this was at a board and train, you can easily set up your phone on a stand, take a quick video, even edit it down if you need to make the dog look better than it really is. And yes, that's usually why TikTok videos are so short. That's usually like probably the 5th or 6th time that they've tried to record the exact same movement, because it just did not work out right. So the dog didn't look right during the first 4 or 5 takes. So they keep on taking a different take, and it's only about 10 seconds sometimes. It's easy to make any dog look good for just a few seconds, but this person didn't even have that. They only had text messages. So they wasted time and money. And it was very heartbreaking for this person. They thought that they had a dog that was going to be coming home at a certain time to work, and they'd been told that this dog was going to be the perfect service dog. A video exchange on a regular basis can help eliminate some of this, uncertainty. And it's always good to have those videos to look back on later on when doing refresher training. Be like, okay, now how did the trainer work with Sparky on this? And even look at those videos of early on and then later on and be like, oh yes, I can see the difference. Because sometimes you can't see it along the way until you look back and compare. So, something to think about. Okay, so this video has been long enough, but I'd like to stress that doing our due diligence is extremely important when preparing for our service dogs in every step along the way, starting years before we even see our dogs at times when applicable. Both with trainers as well as breeders, it is much easier to stop issues before they start by doing everything that we can at every step along the way, researching and making sure that we're really ready, that we're getting the right dog for the right time, for the right job, and finding the right trainer. Because if you have one of those out of step, it can make life so hard. So, thank you for everyone who has made it this far into the video. If you appreciate this kind of content, I would be grateful for any support via shares, hitting the subscribe button, clicking the like button, or sending messages to me at thatservicedogshow@yahoo.com, on Facebook under the same name, as well as on X. I wish you a wonderful holiday season, regardless of which holidays you celebrate, and I will see you in 2024. And I hope that you and your puppers have a great one.